Welcome to my Chaos Dwarf Blunderbusses advanced class, including covering revisions in patch 3.1. Funny story, I didn't realize it had dropped, so I was deploying a line of these like I got away with since Chaos Dwarfs launched, and my 4 Blunderbuss units got mauled a lot more by greenskins than I expected. It's only when I saw Lore Master of Sotek's video I realized they took away the charge bonus versus large. Now, that's a substantial nerf, and when I say substantial, I do not mean extreme or bad. I mean that it's a tangible difference in how you can use the unit. I also think that this gives Chaos Dwarf Infantry a reason to exist, and from that perspective, bravo, bravo. I respect this change. Please like, subscribe, and consider donating through my Ko-fi page to help me keep making these videos. I'm not monetized, so every tiny bit of support really matters. Blunderbusses, despite the shortcomings I covered in my initial video, are still the most powerful infantry missile unit in the Chaos Dwarf roster, and up there with any roster. But that power requires being in range, preferably a range more like 60 to 70 meters. That's dangerously close. So while I respect those who love chevron formations, those are manpower intensive. Once I realized the problem I was having, long before I saw Sotek's video, I changed my formation to a crude checkerboard. I'll keep altering my composition as I get better units, but at least part of your front, because it's not a contiguous line. It needs to be Chaos Dwarf Infantry or something equally so. Gorgeous buffed Hobgoblin units can hold for a while, but that's going to fail more easily without dramatic Lord, Magic, Army ability support. Like I said though, this gives infantry a reason to exist. A lot of units will last in a continuous line more decently, but then you can't fire a blunderbuss fight. Therefore, you need really long-lasting units, high morale, high melee defense, really hard to chew through, high armor for dealing with anything that isn't pure armor piercing. That sound familiar to you? Does it? Good. That's the basics of keeping the blunderbusses firing. The rest is just adjustment and dealing with pesky heroes best you can. One big note, just messing around with my own campaign and I don't see Hellforge upgrades reflected in settlement garrisons. I knew they stopped regiments of renown from having armament upkeep for upgrades. Again, if that's an intentional change, I have to respect it, but that'll make your life harder on the margins. Last time, I just scratched the surface of the Hellforge upgrades. Let's go over number 1 again. Extra powder. With just a minimum of tech tree stuff affecting them, I had blunderbusses with 30 ammunition, as in 30 volleys. Extra powder for blunderbusses gives plus 30% to the missile damage they do when over 80% ammunition. Do the math, that means 6 volleys. More than a few battles might be over, or failing that, might be in a brutal fight at the front lines, long before you're below 80% ammo. That 30% is a massive difference if you're able to focus down a Grimgore or an Arachnarok Spider, or so forth. So extra powder is a safe choice. Now that charge defense versus large is gone, and I'm not crying about that, it's more dangerous to use blunderbusses on their own, on a flank, or deep in the enemy's rear, so I'd recommend staying away from Vanguard deployment unless you design entire armies around it. I mean, you can. It can be really powerful. You just have to appreciate that without such planning, you're probably wasting the armaments. If you are going to do it, you need things like Gordas or a combination of Sneaky Gits and Wolf Riders, maybe War Machines with Vanguard deployment from the Demon Smith's all-terrain skill, maybe Flying Monsters with their own tech upgrades, maybe an Infernal Castellan with the short-range line. How about Stalk? Well, Stalk has a use besides sneaking up on an enemy, and that's often a problem because the enemy has the option of just running away from the blunderbusses and charging the main line. Then your blunderbusses are useless, right? Dwarfs are slow. It's an issue. Having said that, as long as Stalk is ongoing, you can set ambushes, but also keep the enemy from targeting your blunderbusses with magic and artillery, at least not directly. I've lost or nearly lost convoy battles against the Chaos Force purely because the Hell Cannons got curve shots that destroyed my blunderbuss units before I had any chance to get into Hell Cannon busting range. Stalk would have forced them to target something less squishy to magical artillery. In the context of what we've already covered, one option is to go all out and add ammunition replenishment and faster reload onto the blunderbusses. This is to keep them over the magical 80% mark for extra powder. If you aren't using extra powder, the ammo regen probably isn't worth it. Entire legions should be dead 3 times over by the time you run out of ammo. The extra reload translates directly to DPS. It's high damage, so provided the enemy is in range, you want that damage out there as fast as possible. People tend to call this an advanced technique, which is why it's in my advanced class, obviously, but suppression to reduce enemy speed by 30%, thus keeping them in your kill zone an extra amount of time, should not be laughed at. If you're on the fence, try the Granite Guard Regiment of Renown to see how it works. I've seen people say, only use this with Fire Glaze, but the Hellforge affects both. Honestly, I'm not sure how this could possibly be bad. And speed reductions stack, right? I don't want to be danger close with Dreadquakes, but any kind of magic affecting speed combined with this will keep the enemy in your kill zone longer. And isn't that a really good thing? For the Chaos Dwarf Mimi General out there, do you know who you are? The last two options are closely related. Spell resistance of 25% will not help with the aforementioned Hell Cannon situation, not in Warhammer 3. It doesn't work like that. No, it's going to help you deal with searing doom bombardments dumped on your blunderbusses by Cathay Lords and Heroes. That's still a significant part of the game, so if you feel the need, go right ahead and slap that off. The last one I want to cover is simply magical attack permanently on all your melee and missile attacks, almost like you've become an honorary follower of Tzeentch. Of course, if you have a Fire Demon Smith, you can just slap on a Flaming Sword of Ruin spell, and instantly get those benefits, along with the potential upside. Potential downside of flaming attacks. Therefore, the point of having a blunderbuss permanently with magical attack, but not having flaming attacks, is so that you can crush physical resistance without having flaming attacks potentially backfiring on you. Or obviously, if you have no Demon Smith of Fire available. Point being, this is 100% matchup dependent. It's a safe option, there's never ever a downside to doing this. There's only the possibility of not having an upside. It's also one of the cheaper options and therefore available early game. If you're fighting a lot of demons for whatever reason, or Archaon decides he likes the look of your skull and wants it mounted on a pike, take it. Don't hesitate. If you can do without, try other stuff. I've gone out of order and no apologies, I want to keep it interesting. But the upgrades come in the order of extra powder, extra reload and magical attack, stock, Vanguard deployment, suppress plus spell resistance, and then reload time reduction as the last one. That covers the Blunderbuss in its current state. It's still very powerful, you just need to think about how it should make friends with others of its kind, and have the flanks covered, while it sterilizes its frontal arc. Treat your blunderbusses with respect, and they will return the favor with fire and steel. What more could you want? Take care, and have fun out there.